Can it get any worse for Rachel Zegler? She is posting a historic run of L's. Not only has she destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie.
Oh, honey, you better buckle up because this Snow White drama is messier than a red carpet fiasco on a rainy day. We're talking about Disney's once beloved fairy tale turning into a catastrophic spectacle that's dragging everyone, including the producer's own son, into an all-out blame game. Yes, child. They are all pointing fingers left and right. Now, folks are asking, how could a studio known for family magic become the center of this epic meltdown? Let's dive right in to see who's truly at fault, how the stars are fighting back, and why fans everywhere are furious. Let me tell you something. You know things are bad when the producer's son is calling you out in public. And that's exactly what's going down with Jonah Platt, son of Mark Platt, who produced this new Snow White remake. Jonah is out here telling the world that Rachel Zegler basically trashed Disney's intellectual property and set fire to hundreds of millions of dollars. Phew, talk about throwing shade. Now, Jonah didn't hold back. He accused Rachel of getting too mouthy and disrespectful about the original story and characters, specifically calling the prince a stalker and dismissing the entire fairy tale as outdated. According to him, her careless interviews weren't just some minor slip-ups. He believes they practically steered the film toward a box office train wreck. Girl, that's a strong accusation. But folks are gobbling it up because they've seen those clips of Rachel talking as if she's above the classic that started it all. Here's the kicker. Jonah claims Rachel's words didn't just damage the film's reputation. He says she also ruined her own career and tarnished the future prospects of anyone who was part of this project. Imagine starring in a Disney movie, usually a one-way ticket to Hollywood stardom, and somehow turning it into a bullet point on your resume that might make directors think twice. That's what Jonah is suggesting. People in Hollywood are definitely side-eyeing this entire mess. You know those far-left activists and big-time executives Jonah keeps mentioning? He claims they're done playing nice with Rachel, which explains why her appearances on official Disney media platforms suddenly disappeared. Listen, in Tinseltown, where any publicity is supposed to be good publicity, getting yanked from press tours is a major red flag. Folks are whispering that if Jonah Platt feels this strongly, you can only imagine the hush-hush conversations going on behind closed doors. But that wasn't the end of the blame game, sugar. Because while Jonah's out here pointing fingers at Rachel, the rest of the world started digging deeper. Could it really be just Rachel's missteps? Or is the entire production cursed? Brace yourself, because this is where the tea really starts boiling over. Rachel Zegler, the star Disney was banking on, had folks' jaws dropping when she labeled the classic Prince character as some kind of stalker. Yes, boo, you heard that right. The Prince from the original 1937 classic, the same one that defined the term true love's kiss for entire generations, was suddenly being dragged through the mud as a creepy character. Now, I won't lie, the original story is definitely from a different era. But calling that man a stalker? Disney fans were livid. People who grew up adoring Snow White, parents, grandparents, you name it, felt like Rachel was disrespecting a time-honored fairy tale. Social media lit up with everyone posting clips of her interviews, followed by outraged commentary about how she was mocking the film that put Disney on the animated map. The meltdown got so big that Disney executives reportedly started rethinking their entire promotional strategy. Suddenly, Rachel stopped popping up on official Disney talk shows and folks noticed. The rumor mill says the powers that be wanted to limit the damage by cutting down her media appearances. If you ask me, that's basically screaming, we messed up big time. But let's be fair for a second. Some people argue that Rachel was only echoing the updated concept Disney itself fed her. I mean, if the studio wanted a modern, empowered Snow White who rolls her eyes at old-school romance, then part of that marketing spin might involve calling out the archaic parts of the original. Still, fans weren't having it. They didn't want to see an actress treat a timeless character like he was a leftover from some horror movie. So, was Rachel's commentary the real reason the movie started sinking before it even hit theaters? Or was she just a convenient scapegoat for deeper problems? Well, let's just say she wasn't alone in this disaster. Gal Gadot was also in the mix, and baby, that story is a whole other drama. Now, let's talk about Ms. Gal Gadot, who stepped into the role of the evil queen. She might be known as Wonder Woman, but even Wonder Woman wasn't going to save this sinking ship, apparently. Unlike Rachel, Gal played her cards close to the chest. She gave fewer interviews and seemed cautious, which left Disney's upper management feeling mighty frustrated. They wanted a united front, especially with all the negative buzz swirling around. But guess what? Gal's team has since flipped the script. They're saying that the real problem was Disney's inability to present a cohesive vision. Apparently, nobody knew how to spin this modern twist on Snow White in a way that made sense. Was it a progressive retelling, or was it just a poor attempt at rehashing a classic? Girl, the lines were beyond blurred. According to insider whispers, Gal's people felt that every time she answered a question about the evil queen, she had to tiptoe around the big controversies, like how the dwarves were being replaced or CGI'd, or how the prince was suddenly labeled a stalker. She didn't want to come off as contradictory, so she barely said anything. This left the PR team fuming, but Gal was basically thinking, I'm not going down with this shit. As it turns out, that strategy might have saved her from Rachel-level backlash, but it didn't shield her from corporate frustration. Executives expected her to hype up the film as the next big thing, while also acknowledging the changes. Instead, she maintained radio silence for the most part, which gave folks the impression that she wasn't on board with the new direction. So, we've got Rachel's loud opinions and Gal's pregnant pauses. Together, they painted a picture of a messy cast that never quite united. But don't go thinking these two ladies were the sole reason Snow White sank. The studio itself made some baffling decisions when it came to rewriting history. Let's rewind to the moment Disney decided we're going to reimagine Snow White for today's audience. That's a noble goal, except the final product ended up irritating everyone from diehard fans to casual moviegoers who just wanted a nostalgic escape. First, there were those dwarves, or lack thereof. Original photos leaked showing some random group of tall actors in tattered outfits, sparking confusion about whether these were dwarves at all. Then we heard rumors about digital replacements, which only added fuel to the fire. People started asking why Disney wouldn't just cast little people in those roles if they wanted to be inclusive. The entire approach felt half-baked, like they were trying too hard to avoid offending folks without actually listening to what fans wanted. And oh, the script changes. Word on the street is that top executives, fully aware it could alienate the audience, greenlit these alterations that turned Snow White's storyline into a more empowered journey. Gone, it seemed, was any sense of wonder or whimsy. Instead, they stuffed in moral lectures about modern topics, which can work, but not if you're actively dismantling the heart of the original. Disney's marketing department tried to spin these changes as bold and necessary. They painted Snow White as a fierce leader who would rescue herself, prince or no prince. Now, let me be clear. There's nothing wrong with a strong heroine. The problem was how they sold it, making the old version sound like a total joke. That turned fans against them from the jump. So, between the questionable dwarf situation, the heavy-handed modernization, and the arrogant tone in the promotion, it was no surprise that the negativity around this movie kept building. Then, the moment the film's early numbers came in, it was pandemonium. Let's talk about that box office meltdown next, because child, did Disney take a blow. Alright, let's just rip this bandage off. The Snow White remake was a financial disaster. Disney had poured hundreds of millions of dollars into production, marketing, and all sorts of tie-in merchandise that they hoped would fly off shelves. But honey, when opening weekend arrived, the turnout was grim like that spooky forest Snow White wanders through. People blamed the controversy for scaring off audiences. Even families, who are usually Disney's bread and butter, seemed hesitant. Nobody wants to spend their hard-earned money on a movie when the lead actress is out here calling the love interest a creep, or when it's not even clear if the film respects the original story. Merchandise based on the new Snow White also gathered dust in stores. While Disney might have expected little ones to beg mom and dad for dolls and costumes, the kids were just not feeling it. Retailers started slashing prices, and rumors swirled that you could find Snow White shirts in clearance bins at record speed. Naturally, Disney panicked. They had promised shareholders a box office success, not a fiasco. And when big money is at stake, you know what that means. Lawyers start coming out of the woodwork. Whispers began circulating that Disney might try to recoup some of these losses by pointing the finger at the talent, namely Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, for negative press. But believe me, the actresses weren't going down without a fight. That's when folks realized we were stepping into new territory. Typically, major studios keep it polite, even when a movie fails. They might shift blame around quietly, but rarely do they even hint at going after their lead actors' wallets. Yet here we were, hearing rumors of refunds, lawsuit threats, and a lot of hush-hush negotiations. And it only got more dramatic from there. Child, you'd think we were in some reality TV courtroom spin-off with how the accusations started flying. Once Disney's rumored plan to hold Rachel and Gal financially responsible leaked, both actresses' teams apparently said, "Oh no, ma'am." They fired back, claiming that any negative reaction to the film stemmed directly from Disney's questionable creative decisions. According to their reps, Rachel's interviews, yes, the ones where she dissed the prince, were shaped by Disney's marketing push to highlight the film's modern spin. If the studio wanted her to talk up a new approach to romance, then of course she'd emphasize all the ways it differs from the old version. They claim Disney can't have it both ways. If they told Rachel to lean into this modern narrative, they shouldn't be surprised when fans feel alienated. Gal Gadot's camp offered a similar argument, pointing out that the evil queen storyline had changed drastically, too. Gal was told to portray a cunning, self-sufficient villain, a far cry from the theatrically evil queen from 1937. So if the character shift didn't resonate with audiences, how was that her fault? Her job was simply to perform the script as written. Now, all this finger-pointing revealed a deeper rift in Hollywood's power structure. Used to be, if a studio blamed an actor for a flop, that actor might take the hit silently for fear of being blacklisted. But honey, times have changed. With social media, actors can rally the public to their side. And let me tell you, if you scroll through Twitter or Instagram, you'll see plenty of fans who think Disney messed up more than the actresses did. Industry analysts called it a seismic shift in the relationship between talent and studios. Instead of quietly accepting blame, Rachel and Gal are challenging Disney at every turn. Some even speculate that if Disney tries to formally file a lawsuit, the actresses could countersue by claiming defamation or breach of contract. Talk about drama. But if you thought this fiasco was just a battle between the stars and the suits, hold on, because the fans themselves have plenty to say, and they're hitting Disney where it hurts. Let's be real. Disney counts on dedicated fans who grew up on these classics to show up for new releases. But after this fiasco, a lot of fans are out here saying, nope, I'm done. They're calling for boycotts, blasting the studio on social media, and lamenting that Disney's once magical touch has evaporated. The frustration goes beyond just Rachel's commentary or Gal's near silence. Fans feel like the entire approach to these live-action remakes has become cynical. Where is the enchantment? The heart? If everything's just about fixing the original so it's more modern, then what made the story beloved in the first place? Many viewers wanted an update that respected the essence of Snow White, not one that caricatured it. It doesn't help that Disney's also been juggling underwhelming Marvel spin-offs and other remakes that didn't exactly dazzle at the box office. There's a growing concern that the mega studio is losing its creative spark. Executives seem more focused on cranking out content than preserving the legacy that made Disney a household name. Now, industry experts are asking, can Disney course correct? Will they scrap future reboots, or at least handle them with more care? In the aftermath of the Snow White remake fiasco, some folks believe Disney might step back from these large-scale reimaginings for a while. Others think they'll just double down and try to fix the marketing so that controversies don't spin out of control. What about Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot? For Rachel, this could be the role that forever changes the trajectory of her career, for better or worse. If the public believes she's ungrateful or dismissive of a beloved classic, that might limit her opportunities. Then again, she could pivot to indie films or find another blockbuster that redeems her image. Hollywood loves a comeback, darling. As for Gal, she's still Wonder Woman to many fans, so maybe she'll walk away relatively unscathed. Regardless, one thing's clear. The relationship between fans, actors, and the Disney Corporation is under severe strain. People are tired of high-budget flicks that tear down beloved stories without offering something genuinely magical in return. If Disney doesn't heed these warning signs, they might see more than just box office flops. They could witness a collapse of the brand loyalty built over generations. So where do we go from here? Will Disney keep forging ahead with more reboots? Will fans who felt betrayed come back if the studio releases a faithful adaptation next time? Or has the damage been done? It's not just about Snow White anymore. This whole situation is shaking the foundation of Disney's live-action strategy. And there you have it, baby. A classic Disney fairy tale turned into a real-life soap opera. We've got Jonah Platt clapping back at Rachel Zegler, Rachel doubling down, then trying to clarify her stance, and Gal Gadot sliding through quietly yet firmly. Meanwhile, Disney's facing one of its biggest brand disasters in ages, complete with unhappy fans, angry shareholders, and a massive box office flop that nobody saw coming. Not at this scale, anyway. If there's one thing to take away from this entire fiasco, it's that playing fast and loose with cherished stories can cost you big. Disney set out to reimagine Snow White, but ended up with a controversy so large it might leave a permanent mark on how audiences view these reinventions. The big question is whether Disney can regain the public's trust, or if the golden era of magical, family-friendly remakes is fading into the background. Only time will tell, honey. Thanks for supporting the Gossip Wire. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more of the hottest celebrity news online.